guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about, can you get a job in medical coding without being certified? If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I got this comment that inspired today's episode, so I'm going to read the comment in. We're going to get into it. So here we go. So the viewer says, this is the best video I've watched on this topic, and the video was 2025, where new medical coders should apply. Thank you so much for this information. It was extremely helpful. I am currently studying for my CPC certification with AAPC. I know you said the job search process tends to be long. How soon should I start reaching out for coding jobs? Should I wait until I've taken and passed the exam, or should I start before taking it? So here's the thing, guys. Yes, you actually can get a job in medical coding without being certified. However, if you do it this way, say for instance, you've gotten into the last term of your program and you're just basically wrapping things up and it's basically all a review time, and you're not quite ready to take your test yet. Maybe you're waiting on some funds to come in to pay for your exam, or something's going on that's preventing you from taking your exam right away. So you say, well, let me go ahead and start applying for jobs. Absolutely. If you can get out there and start applying for jobs, the sooner the better. Anytime that you feel like you've already started to understand the material, you get it in a general sense, as long as you have a good grasp of it, it's a good time to start applying, because that means you can take an assessment test, and you would be able to pass it, because that's basically what they need. Now, I will say this. If you do this way, if you go and you apply, and let's just say the employer says, okay, this person's not certified yet, but they did complete a program, or they're about to complete a program, we're going to stipulate that if we hire you on, that you will be certified within 6 months. Sometimes they say a year, sometimes they say 2 years. It really all depends on the employer. But if they give you a deadline, that means that they expect you to get a certification before that deadline, because they can let you go if you do not meet that requirement. And so there's a little bit of pressure there. But however, if you are already out there and you're getting this job, I mean, that means that you basically know what you're doing. So you should not have a problem taking the test. A lot of times people will get themselves like in their own head about the test, and that's not what you need to do. Okay, so just make sure that if you are doing that, just be aware that employers can ask for that. They can say, okay, well, we'll hire you without a certification, but we will need you to get certified within a certain amount of time. And so if you're willing to take that on, that's totally fine. However, if you do this, just be aware that the employer may say, okay, well, you don't have a certification, so we're not going to pay you the same way we would a certified medical coder. Now, if you're willing to accept that to begin with, and they say, okay, well, we're not going to pay you what we pay our certified medical coders, but once you get your certification, then we'll go ahead and review everything and then consider you for a raise. So maybe that's part of it too. You have to be very clear when you're talking about it, because it's still okay to be out there, and it's still okay to get hired on without a certification. It's okay to do that, as long as the company is willing to match their word and say, okay, well, you get your certification, and then we'll talk about getting you up to what certified medical coders are being paid. I have heard from people, though, that have said that they have done this and their company was like making them wait a whole year before they got that pay increase. Now, maybe it's because of like an HR thing, like as far as how they handle the budgets. So maybe after a year, then you get your certification and then you're moved up in the pay. Now that makes sense, right? Especially if you waited 6 months to get your certification, and then you have another 6 months, and then you're going to be paid like the other certified coders. Every place is different. So this is something that you would have to really talk about. But if you're willing to accept that, if you're willing to say, well, you know what, Blue, I'm going to put all that aside. My desires for this high salary that the schools like to push, I'm going to be realistic, and if this company is willing to take a chance on me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this job and learn what I can, and then if it doesn't work out, or if I want to move on, I've already collected some skills. Okay, so you're already collecting skills. And so that's just something that is a good trade-off. Okay, it's a good trade-off there. The other thing I will say is this. it's good to do that because it's good to do that, just like starting a job if you can, because that's going to make looking at the test a little bit easier. Because people who have had experience and they're not certified, and then all of a sudden they have this thing where they want to get certified, a lot of times they don't have to study much and they just go and they take the test and they're able to pass because they have that hands-on experience. So this is a great way of getting hands-on experience and then doing your test, and then you're more likely to pass because everything is really familiar and it makes sense. Because right now, when you're a student or when you're still learning, sometimes these guidelines, they don't make sense. But when you get into the real world and you see practical application, then it starts to make sense. So again, it's really personal preference. If you want to do that, it's totally fine. If you want to go ahead and start the job seeking process, great, because that means that you are being proactive. That's wonderful, because it does sometimes take a lot of resumes and a lot of applying to get out there and find your first job. Now let's talk about that part, okay? So here's the thing when it comes to brand new medical coders. Sometimes brand new medical coders will say, okay, well, I'm looking for an entry-level job. They're going to put this on their resume. Don't do that. Because if you put, I'm seeking an entry-level job, they're going to know by looking at your resume that you have no experience. There's no need to point that out, okay? Don't point that out, because again, if you are, then it's saying that you need your hand held. And you may not think that you are trying to put yourself out there that way, but that's the way that it's going to be interpreted. So what you want to do is you want to focus, your resume should be 1 page, okay? Now, I have done resumes in the past that were 2 pages. It was just fine. But as I've gotten more and more experience with writing resumes, I find that resumes on 1 page are a lot more better. It's much more efficient. It's a lot cleaner. Trust me, it's a lot cleaner. So keep that in mind. Your resume should be on 1 page. And you should not have multiple page resumes, because if you do, it's more likely that your resume is going to be passed over, because of the simple fact that no one has time to look and flip through 4 or 5 different pages when they can just have 1 page resume, look at all the skills that you're bringing, the experience that you've had, and the transferable skills that you're bringing on. Because that's why this industry works so well, is because people come to it from all different kinds of industries, and all of those transferred in talents helps to build our industry, okay? So that's the thing that you have to realize. Sometimes, again, like I said the other night, is you have more power than you think you do as somebody that's brand new. You have no bad habits. You have none of those things. What you are bringing in is transferable skill. So the length of time that you will be out there looking for a job is in direct correlation with the quality of your resume. If your resume quality is completely off and you have a terrible resume and maybe you have it on 1 page, but you don't identify yourself with your credentials, you don't even put them next to your name, or you're not even listing in the resume what job you're seeking at that particular organization. Maybe you say, oh, professional summary. You should never have a professional summary as a brand new medical coder. It doesn't matter if you've had previous healthcare experience either. You do not have a professional summary when you are brand new. When you are brand new, you have a professional objective. What is your objective? You are seeking XYZ position, okay? And then you briefly, and I mean briefly, it's like maybe 3 or 4 sentences. And it's not a regurgitation about what you're about to say. It is, again, that human drawl. And you do need a cover letter, because if you are putting on your skills list, organized team player, smiling face, that I'm not going to want to see as a hiring manager if I'm a hiring manager. So you want to keep those off. You want to keep those skills on the skills list very clean and very direct. I've talked about it too many different times. I'm not going to talk about it again, but I will say that that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make on their resume as brand new medical coders, is not paying attention to those details, like the skills, like your name. Your name should have your credentials next to it. And if you don't, again, I'm not going to do an Easter egg hunt to try to see what certification you have. Because sometimes people will be applying for these jobs that don't have maybe a certification that's going to apply for this particular position, okay? Again, it doesn't mean that you can't absolutely get into those places, because as I've said before, all of the coders that are at my facility all have a CPC. They all learned on the job. So none of them have inpatient credentials. So I'm just saying, but that's something that you have to know. This, again, the industry is very diverse, and so because of that, again, we're talking about the transferred in talents, and it needs to show very clearly on your resume. Your resume should not go back more than 10 or 15 years in your work history. I don't want to see that you worked in the early 90s. I don't want to see that you worked in the early 2000s. And if you tell me, well, Blue, I don't have anything to add onto my resume. You know, guys, there's a thing, especially if you were raising kids because you were taking care of kids, or you were taking care of a parent or something like that, you were taking care of somebody. That's not, I mean, you're not obviously getting paid for it like in the general sense, but it doesn't mean that you're not getting skill from it, right? Because think about all the things that you have to do when you're caretaking, okay? And again, not going to get into it, but that's just something that sometimes people don't really realize how much skill they're bringing in, and they should. And it's a sad thing when I see that about people, that they don't give themselves enough credit, okay? But yes, again, the quality of your resume is going to be in direct correlation with how long you're going to be looking for a job. And if you say, well, I don't like writing, doesn't matter what you like, okay? You need to get with the program. This is what the industry needs. We need to see what people are bringing to us in this industry. So your resume is your calling card. This is going to be what they see of you first. If it is not right, you will not get a call. You will be among the people out there who are crying and going on because they can't get in, they can't get a job. Well, I paid somebody to do my resume. Was the person involved in health information or medical coding so that they understand? And oh, yes, they were. Okay, and then when you look at the resume itself and you see a lot of redundancy, especially in the skills section where they have 50,000 skills, this is not a seasoned person that's in our industry that really understands what we do. Okay, so make sure that you watch those things. Don't just get anybody willy-nilly because you're trying to pass off this duty that you should be doing and that you can absolutely do on your own. I have plenty of videos on my channel about resume tips for medical coders. The frustrating thing for me is that I put out all these resume tip videos, or I talk about the resumes and I talk about things to add and do all these things. I feel like I talk about it every week. And I still get people who will send me their resume and asking me if I can review it. Guys, I don't review resumes without charging. I have to charge. Otherwise, I would be inundated constantly with that. That's why that's why I write resumes. My rate and contact information is in the description box below. So again, if you don't have the funds for it right now, I totally understand. That's why I try to help y'all with having videos about those topics, okay? So that way you can write this yourself. And again, if you can have somebody else to write it, make sure that they know what they're doing. You know, I'm not always going to guarantee my resumes, but I will say that they have been successful in the past getting people jobs. So that's what I'm going to tell you guys there. But again, a lot of these detailed things, it's literally about paying attention. Literally about paying attention. And if you see those videos on my channel, you can even put it into Google, Medical Coding with Bleu resume tips. You will see my videos pop up in Google. Okay, so you don't even have to look through all the videos if you don't want to. There's a direct way to find things, and that is through Google. Okay, just put my name, and then you'll see all the videos, and then whatever topics you want to, interview tips, resume tips, study tips, for the whatever exam, CCS, CCA, CCSP, or the CPC, okay? And yes, I only talk about these four. I refuse to talk about test prep tips for any of these other credentials out there, that like the subspecialty credentials, and you all know which ones I'm talking about. I am not doing that, okay? Now, CDI, is a little bit, I'm not focused on that right now, okay? So I'm not talking about the CDI credentials because those are very serious and those take a little bit of focus, okay? But I'm talking about these other ones out there. If I'm not talking about those, I don't recommend them. And I've talked about the ones that I don't recommend several times on the channel. And because, is anyone looking for them? No, but you're wanting to add these on because you want to make your name look a little bit more like, oh, okay, well, I have substantial knowledge. You can have substantial knowledge even having one certification. I know why. Because I did it. For 13 years, I did it with the CCA. Nobody could tell me that I don't know anything, or I wasn't qualified, or I didn't have the skill or the knowledge. Okay. So I fixed that real quick. I have no problem fixing that. And I've changed hearts and minds being able to do what I do, and having the CCA that I had at the time. Now I have the CCSP, the Certified Coding Specialist Physician Base, and the CCS, the Certified Coding Specialist, the gold standard of medical coding credentials. And both of these are with the American Health Information Management Association. I do talk about AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders, because employers look for both organizations, their credentials. So that's the thing, guys. And I'm never going to gatekeep information because, oh, I'm only a HEMA. No, absolutely not. I talk about things that are beneficial for all coders, regardless of who published it, regardless of whose product it is, okay? So that's just the way that I am. And don't ask me to do videos about other credentials. If I'm not mentioning those, or if I'm not doing videos about preparing for them, is because I don't find them useful, okay? That's why. And that's my own opinion, and I'm entitled to my own opinion. And you are entitled to your own opinion. But again, my channel, my rules. I'm going to do what I want to. And my whole thing is about making sure that you all are prepared, that you're not getting taken advantage of, that you are given the truth, and you're given the truth straight, no chaser. And that's just the way I am. That's the way I am. But again, it comes from a place of love, because again, I don't want y'all being taken advantage of. I don't want y'all going through unnecessary things when you don't have to, right? So that's my advice anyway. Now, if you're going to apply without a certification and you say, Bleu, I'm not ready to apply yet for coding, but I still want to get exposure to codes, you can try to apply for positions on the dark side, okay? Claims reviewer, medical claim reviewer. Sometimes they change the name a little bit, but basically what you'd be doing as a claims reviewer is looking at the claim that's coming in, and then you're basically running it through an encoder for the insurance company, just to check and see if there's any edits that pop up. And edits mean like, hey, there's something wrong here, there's an error, or it's flagging something's off in this claim. And if you see that, then you do the process of denying the claim and you send it back, and that's how that whole process goes. It's great to have a medical coding certification, because then you're going to really understand, okay, this one should have had a modifier 25, this one should have had an XS modifier, you know what I mean, like whatever. And again, each of these insurance companies has specific rules, okay? So if you can get in on that side and get started, and sometimes you don't have to have a certification. I've seen those listings for that as well. You don't have to have a certification. Sometimes they want you to have experience, and sometimes they'll say, oh, it must have a nursing background. That's for something different. That's for people that are looking to deny a, like, okay, well, you know, we're not going to pay for this, we're not going to pay for that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for like the claims that are coming in, basically you're processing the claims processor, okay? That's what I'm talking about. So that would be great for new medical coders. Then you're going to be able to gather up that information. There's not going to be that pressure to get certified right away, right out of the gate if you're not ready. And I understand that, but you got to keep practicing, okay? Don't get lackadaisical and don't stop studying because now you say, well, I have a job and I just didn't do it, and excuses, okay? Make sure that you are still studying so that you can get your certification and you can move on, because that's your original goal, right? Is to get into coding, not to do that. All right. So again, we're trying to make those connections. Okay. There's also prior authorizations. Prior authorizations does not require you to be coding. What it does is you're looking at the documentation. The doctor's saying the patient has this diagnosis. I want to do this procedure. Call the insurance company, see if we can make it happen. And that's involving the electronic health record. That's involving you looking at documentation as well, and looking for those things to support this procedure so that the patient can get it. And that's very important. Again, a lot of great transferable skills are built that way, and you're not under that pressure to get certified, okay? But again, you want to make sure that you are still staying the course to get certified, and don't just say it and don't follow through, all right? My advice anyway. But that's what I would say about those things. There's also charge entry. Okay, now charge entry is basically like data entry, and you're just entering in the charges into their database and their system and that kind of thing, like the healthcare organization or whatever. And it's kind of close to billing, but you're just entering in charges. Again, it's going to get you exposure to the electronic health record. It's going to get you exposure to the codes. That's something that you could put as transferable skill onto your resume. You're making those professional connections. Again, very important. So those are some other alternative jobs that you can look for in the meantime, in between time, if you're not able to get into coding right away. For those of you that are going to get fresh about that, because I've had people get fresh too and say, well, why would I do all of this coding training and get into a billing position? That's just stupid. Okay, well, that comment is just stupid. Okay, let's go about it the right way, right? Again, sometimes people they have a poor resume, and that's going to affect their ability to find a job quickly. 2, they don't know how to express their skill, and that will also hinder them from finding a job. I am just trying to help you to get a job so that you can get in. Now, I've talked about the ones to avoid, like patient access. Do not go with a patient access position, because this is not going to use your skill as a coder. What this is a front desk person. It is very important. These folks are very important to the hospital and the whole machine, right? The whole human machine of the hospital or the healthcare organization. It is very important. They are so critical, but they don't require technical skill like coders do, like people who have graduated with their degrees in health information technology and health information management. It's not going to use their skill. You want to get into a position that is going to expose you to your skill set, and you can get better with it. Not where you're just checking in patients, where you're doing all of these things. And if you were able to find your first job in coding and you say, well, Blue, I started out in patient access, that's fantastic for you. I'm so glad and so happy for you. But I'm talking to those that are not going to be in those positions. I'm talking to those people because I don't want them to waste their time. I'm the one who gets messages from folks who have spent years being in patient access, complaining because they never got a medical coding job. Why didn't you get a medical coding job? Because you stopped looking, right? And you're working in a job that is not going to use your skill. So basically, you're just hanging out with this credential now that's just costing you money. You're not using it. That's what I want you guys to think about, okay? And that's what you got to know. Getting into the industry can be difficult, yes, but it can be made easier by listening, by arming yourself with a good resume, by applying for jobs like medical biller. Medical biller is coding adjacent, okay? It's going to get you that experience. If you don't want to do that, it's totally fine. I understand. I've never been a biller. I've only been a coder. And again, I understand the fundamentals of billing, but would I want to do billing? No, I'm happy to do coding, okay? But, and again, there's all those other positions like prior authorizations and charge entry and claim reviewer. Those ones are going to use your skill. There is no time to waste when it comes to you just finished your program. Now you're going to take your certification sometime, and then you're going to get out there and get a job. And sometimes people need that job right now. So they start looking right away before they even get their certification. And again, guys, it's okay. But just keep in mind, if you are not communicating your skill enough, that's going to affect you being able to get in. So make sure that you watch my videos about resume tips. And if you can't, if you say, okay, well, I really can't do this, find somebody who can help you. Again, if you send me your resume, I'm going to tell you, here's my rate for how much I charge to rewrite the resume. I don't do that for free, guys, just so you know. Well, with that said, I want to wish you guys the best of luck out there. It is a great field. You will get in if you are diligent. And don't look at it like I just only applied for 10 jobs and no one's calling me. It's a numbers game. When you're applying for jobs, it is a numbers game. The more resumes that you put out that are specifically tied to that position, like making sure that you update your resume and cover letter with that job title every single time, the better off it's going to be. You're going to be able to get that resume to the right person's hands. If the AI and the ATS reader is automatically rejecting you, find the mailing address for that organization, direct it to the Human Resources Department, and then you could say to forward to the hiring manager for XYZ position, okay? And you mail them a physical copy of your resume, all right, and your cover letter. And so that way you can tell them, I did apply online as per the protocol, but I wanted to follow up. Don't say that the machine automatically rejected my resume, because, again, we just want them to see the resume. If it's mailed in, it has to get into somebody's hands, okay? And so that's just a good way to do it. It's a great way to set you apart from the other candidates, all right? Because, again, when it goes into the ATS reader, it's going into two different piles. One is qualified and the other is unqualified. And so while they have it on file, if they go through the qualified pile and they're not able to find a candidate, it's not unusual for you to hear back from somebody that's saying, okay, well, we're going through all the people who applied for this job, and, you know, we saw your resume, you know, how about an interview? Okay, that's the thing. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of hope. But, you know, sidestepping that and mailing it in, don't take it in physically. Don't do that. Do not do that. I'm telling you to mail it in. Let them see it that way. Because if you just go showing up there, that looks a little weird. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.